Hello, and welcome to the DocMo Show, where we explore the secrets to mastering your health naturally so you can feel your absolute best. I'm your host, Dr. Angela Mosley, but here everyone just calls me DocMo. On today's episode, we have a very special guest, Taryn Firkser, who is a certified holistic nutritionist and creator of Aubergine and Olive, a site dedicated to sharing nutrition advice and guidance before, during, and after pregnancy to promote optimal health for both mom and baby. Tara has a passion for educating and empowering others to take control of their health, and she has helped many families improve their health through nutrition and lifestyle change. And today she'll be sharing her knowledge and insights with us. So please help me in welcoming Taryn to the show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me here.
Hi, Miss Taryn. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, thanks. How are you doing?
I am awesome. So tell me a little bit about what this aubergine and olive is, what you do, how did you get into this? Welcome.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, some big questions. I feel like I'm telling my life story right now. So basically, Aubergine and Olive is my holistic nutrition practice. My goal is to empower women with information, support, and guidance that they need to make informed decisions about what's best for themselves and before, during, and after pregnancy. So I offer nutrition consulting services, like I said, offering advice on nutrition and wellness to women at all stages during their pregnancy journey. And I offer that through consultations, mainly virtually, and information as well on my website.
Awesome. So we talked a little bit before this, and I really want the audience to get a sense of who you are because you really have an interesting background and you didn't start off in holistic nutrition. So, do you mind telling us a little bit about what was your background before this and how did you transition into what you're doing now?
Yeah, sure. I definitely have not always been into nutrition, and I haven't always been a holistic nutritionist. In my previous life, I was actually a diplomat. I served with the Canadian government. I'm based in Canada. I did that for about 15 years. And while it was like super cool and interesting, I lived in 4 countries, I traveled everywhere, worked on interesting issues. It was super, super hectic. I was busy, I was stressed out, I was getting burnt out, and I felt like I really didn't have a good work life balance. Um, I was growing my family at the time, and there just wasn't enough space to work hard and meet all my work demands and also have time for my kids and my family. Um, so I knew that this was as kind of fun and interesting as it wasn't really a sustainable career path for me, and I knew that I had to make a change.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it was not a decision that I made lightly. It's something that I thought about for a really long time, especially because if I was going to change, I wanted to do something that would bring me kind of joy and fulfill my passions, but also where I would have time for my family and I wouldn't feel like this crazy stressed, burnt out feeling that I was feeling. So I spent a lot of time thinking and doing a lot of self reflection and asking myself, like, what do I really want to do? What is going to be the thing that is going to feel really good inside?
Mm-hmm.
And, when I figured that out, it was like things clicked, the timing was right. And I just felt so motivated to make the decision. So, I really thought a lot about how I had this like longstanding interest in the connection between what we eat and how we feel. And I also really felt passionate about like genuinely wanting to help people and make a difference.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought a lot about, well, how can I combine my interests and passions together? And I kind of realized that that would work very well in the field of holistic nutrition. So I quit the high flying lifestyle job of diplomatic service and went back to school, got my certification as a holistic nutritionist, and started my practice at Aubergine and Olive. Um, when I was starting my practice, I did a lot of thinking and reflecting about like what do I actually want to focus on when it comes to nutrition and wellness, and I thought a lot about my past self, and I remembered when I was pregnant with my first child, and when I first found out I was pregnant, I felt so overwhelmed and confused and like paralyzed because there was just so much like information out there, and I didn't know what was right and what I should be doing or shouldn't be doing. And I really wish that I had somebody who could guide me and support me. And through, the rest of my journey growing my family, through miscarriage and fertility issues and other pregnancies and postpartum periods, I remember wishing that I had some kind of support there. So I decided that I would like to be this kind of support and guide for other women, women who are planning a pregnancy, struggling with fertility issues, who are currently pregnant or postpartum, and are feeling like they need some guidance and support to best nourish themselves and their babies. So that was kind of my motivation in deciding to focus on kind of pregnancy, holistic nutrition, and helping women through their pregnancy journey.
Wow. That is amazing. And I think it takes a lot of courage to leave a corporate government lifestyle and the security of that to really branch out on your own and do something that you're truly passionate about. So kudos to you for, just having the courage to step out and do that. And now you're making an impact in women's lives and families and those kids' lives who you help.
Yeah, thank you. It was definitely a hard thing to do. It was very scary, but I really believe that like we shouldn't let fear stop us from doing things. And if
Absolutely.
that was all that was standing in my way, I wasn't gonna just stand by and not do it. So I kind of had to push through that fear, and I'm so happy that I did, because now I have a flexible job. I don't feel that stressed out anymore. I have time for my kids, but I also feel really good about what I'm doing. So I feel like I've checked all the boxes that were missing in my old career, and I'm so happy that I made the decision.
Nice. So I want to ask you, because you focus mainly on pregnancy and the phases before and after, and obviously during, but what are some of the misconceptions that people may have when thinking about nutrition in pregnancy? Because I think most of us have been conditioned to think that, oh, when you're pregnant you can eat anything, just consume as many calories as you want, and everything you see, if you want to eat it, as long as it's safe. But how does your philosophy differ from that mindset?
Wow. Yeah, you're totally right that there are so many misconceptions when it comes to pregnancy. And this idea that, well, yeah, now I'm pregnant. I can just, eat for two, take some vitamins, and I'm fine. I think that that is a really big pregnancy myth. Um, so in my practice, I really try to, address that head on. So I don't talk about eating for two, because to me that says like you're increasing the amount of food you eat. So eat whatever you want. You just need to eat a little bit more of it, right? But eating a little bit extra potato chips is not really going to help you and your baby. So instead, for me, I like to focus on this idea of nourishing for two. So that's looking at not how much you eat, but the quality of the food, right? So what it is that you're actually eating, so that you're eating food that is going to give you the vitamins and minerals and other nutrients that you actually need to grow a person and to feel really good while you do. So I think that's definitely a misconception, and that women should really think about focusing on not how much they eat, but what it actually is they're eating, and focus on quality food over quantity. That's definitely a big one for me.
Yeah. That's really awesome. And I think it's not shared enough, those types of thought processes, to think about nourishing yourself and not just putting something in. Because I think most of us stay so busy, we don't give ourselves time to really think about it or think through what will really nourish us. And so I really love that. Um Now, we talked about more of your philosophy. And I know a lot of times people want to just focus on just the physical part of eating. But I don't think your approach only focuses on just the food part. Is that correct?
Yeah, so as a holistic nutritionist, I have a holistic perspective, which means that we're not just looking at, like you said, like the food we eat, what we're putting in our body. It's a much broader perspective. So there's kind of two ways to look at this. So one is that we're looking at, so not just like how you feed yourself and what you put in your body, but also looking at like your your physical health, your emotional health, your mental health, even your spiritual health. So yes, how you feed yourself, but also how you live your life. Are you sleeping enough? How are your stress levels? How much movement do you get? Do you get in a day? Do you spend time in nature? How do you feel spiritually? Do you feel like you're in a supportive environment? All these kind of things, so that you're taking care of all aspects of your health and wellness. And the other aspect of the holistic nature is that we're not just looking at like one symptom or one group of symptoms and throwing a band-aid on and saying, hey, you're cured. We're really looking at addressing root causes and
Mm-hmm.
looking at imbalances in the body that might not necessarily seem connected on the surface, but it's really amazing how our bodies work. That if you have something going on in this side of your body, it's going to affect what's going on in this side of your body. And those kind of things are really overlooked. So I really like to look at like the person and the body as a whole and seeing, what's really going on, and how can we address maybe some of those other underlying or not obvious issues, so that we're not just getting rid of the symptoms, but we're getting to the heart of the problem. So taking that much bigger holistic perspective for sure.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I think so many people focus just on diet or just on an eating plan and things like that. And that's not going to be the total solution for most people. So I think that's really awesome that you really dig into discovering where that underlying cause is and addressing it with your clients. So that's really amazing.
The other thing that I was just thinking of is when it comes to diet. So, um, yeah, just thinking about like what you're eating is not going to be enough, but even not thinking about how you're eating can also be a problem. That oftentimes we don't think about how we eat. We just think about what we're putting into our bodies. But how you eat. So, for example, if you're eating on the run, or you're like super stressed out when you're eating, you're chewing your
Mhm.
food fast, you're not getting things broken down, um, is really going to affect how what happens with that food once it goes in your body. So, how you digest it and how your body gets the nutrients from that food to the rest of your body, which then is going to affect how you feel afterwards. So, even when it comes to food, even that part of it, it's a lot more than the what you eat. You really got to think about the how you eat as well, because that's going to affect how you feel overall.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. And even with my own functional clients, we address the same thing because so many people think it's about choosing which foods to eat. But the matter is so much bigger than that. Like you're saying, how you're eating, when you're eating, all of those things contribute to your overall health. And so I think it's just amazing and awesome that you do that. Like, how did you come on this information and develop such a comprehensive approach? Because most people just don't have that.
Um, it comes from two areas. So one is from my professional training, um, and I kind of have an analytical mind. So when I learn something, I don't just take it at face value. I like to understand why and how. So doing a lot of like critical thinking into the information that I was given, so that I understand it and think and understand how it works, and that I really feel comfortable that like these are the facts and that there aren't any other kind of nuances or opinions. So, but part of it, yeah, so it's kind of from that evidence-based side from my professional training, but the other side is from my own personal experience. So um, as a mother of three, I've had a long pregnancy journey, and I've learned from my own personal experiences what works and what doesn't work. Kind of like experimenting on myself a little bit, and taking information or advice or things I've been told and trying them out and seeing how it affects me or how it affects my own kids, and then understanding, well, why or why didn't it affect me in a certain way, and kind of going from there. So like a bigger learning process for sure, and then taking all of that, so like from my experience and my knowledge, and then and now I feel like I can take those two sides and apply them to whatever's going on in my clients' lives.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's awesome to make those kind of leaps to be able to help people in a much more comprehensive way. And so that made me think of something, because if I was a mom or I was expecting, I have to feed. If I had other kids, it's like I have to feed them at the same time. And if you have a husband or, your family, you got to feed them too. So do your concepts, do your lessons and guidance help them feed the rest of the family too?
Yeah, for sure. Because nobody's going to be making like something for the kids and something for their husband and then something for themselves as well, right? Unless like you happen to be have a personal chef. That's not a realistic lifestyle. So I do a lot of education about how to like realistically eat in a healthy way. So for example, I have a blog post on my blog about how to get more vegetables in your diet. And I give like really practical, easy things that you can do to get more vegetables in very easy ways, but ways that you can easily get more vegetables into the rest of your family. So you're not like veggieing up just your kids, you're doing it for yourself as well. And there are things that are so easy to do that like it just takes a few minutes. It's really not like a whole extra burden to do it. So offering easy practical tips is definitely, yes, definitely something I include. So otherwise, it's just people are just not going to do it.
Oh yeah, I love that easy part and only a few minutes. Because some of us are so busy, and we work a lot and we do a lot and we just have a lot going on, whatever that entails for us. And so the simpler things are, the better. And I think, that's why so many people get intimidated from reaching out to someone or getting the help, because they maybe think it's just going to be too complicated, or they won't be able to do it, or they won't be able to sustain it. So do you focus on creating sustainable plans for people where they can keep doing it and maybe learn the principles and continue to apply those as they move forward? Because pregnancy is only a short time. Maybe it doesn't feel short towards the end of the process, but once that phase is over, can they take these principles and move on and continue with a healthy eating lifestyle from there?
Well, that's definitely the goal, because doing something for a few days or a few weeks, it's not really going to do a lot of good. It's more about developing like routines and habits that are going to be stuck in your day and in your schedule that you're going to keep doing. So, how I really like to do that is by making plans that are personalized and customized to my client, because everybody is different. Everybody has different things that they're juggling, and different lifestyles and pressures and time constraints. So it really depends on the person. So everything that I create for my clients is definitely based on their circumstances. Some people are like, they're ready to go, they're super motivated, they want to change everything in their lives and they want to do everything right away, and maybe they can handle a lot more changes. But other people already have a lot going on in their lives and they want to make some changes, but they don't have a lot of space for it. People like that, maybe it's a better idea to move a little bit slowly, but get to that goal, but in a realistic way. So making sure, yeah, that everybody has things that are tailored to them and that are going to work for them is definitely a goal of mine.
Yeah, I love that, because, what I see are so many people trying to copy someone else's plan or routine. And it's like, that doesn't necessarily work unless you're them and you have the same lifestyle and the same schedule. Things do have to be customized and tailored for you and your personal lifestyle and what you have going on. And so, I think that's really awesome that you are truly customizing your plans for your clients, because yeah, I've seen it too often where people try to just print off a diet off the internet and try to take this cookie cutter approach, and it just, most of the time, it doesn't work.
Yeah, especially when you're looking for long-term changes and not just a quick fix. You need something that's going to work for you, and that not just something that worked for someone else.
Absolutely. So I did want to touch on another subject that's somewhat related, and you mentioned it a little while ago, which is infertility. And it seems that infertility is its own very devastating epidemic right now. So, how does what you do help women if they are trying to get pregnant or struggling with something like infertility?
So I really enjoy working with clients who are in that preconception phase, whether they've just started thinking about planning for a pregnancy or they've been trying to get pregnant for a while and are facing some challenges. It's a great area to work in because there's a lot going on there, but there's definitely solutions. So clients who are in that phase, it really depends because like I said, I really tailor everything to the specific individual. So it really depends on what's going on with them. But there are some like general strategies or areas of focus that I take when it comes to planning for conception. And these are things that are also super important to consider if fertility is an issue. But when it comes to working with fertility challenges in particular, it really depends on what's going on with the client. Like I said before, I like to look at the root causes of problems and imbalances in other areas that might be affecting what's going on. So I really try to look at that bigger picture and think about, what exactly is causing these issues and how can we address those causes, while at the same time making sure that the people involved themselves are in a good position for conception. So to make sure that their health and wellness is at the optimal point for sure.
Yeah. Awesome. Another question, and you mentioned this one already a little bit, but I want to talk about prenatal vitamins because, even in my field of study, and I study as a family medicine doctor, so, we had to deal with women in their pregnancy and things like that, and then you're recommending prenatal vitamins, but what is the deal with prenatal vitamins? Are they kind of, is anyone you pick okay, or are there certain things you're looking for as far as the quality when you're looking at prenatal vitamins?
I'm so happy you asked this because this is kind of a big passion of mine. Talking about like pregnancy misconceptions, you hit it right there. That like this idea of that you have to take a prenatal and that anyone you take is fine is something that drives me crazy because there's just so much incorrect information out there about prenatal supplements. And if you follow me on Instagram, you'll see that I talk a lot about prenatals. And what I have to say about them might not necessarily be the same thing as your doctor says. But I think it's information that at the very least you need to consider and factor in when making decisions about prenatal. So, for example, I think the first thing that anyone should do is ask themselves, do I actually need to take a prenatal? Because it's not a have to, it's not like a mandatory thing. And thinking about like, well, why do I need to take it? And what happens if I don't? And when I work with clients, some of them don't want to take a prenatal, and that's totally fine. We find ways to get everything that they need from food, which is really the best place to get it from. And other clients I work with, we also have that goal of getting everything that they need to grow their baby and that they need to thrive from their diet, and use a prenatal kind of like as a backup insurance policy. And when it comes to people that do choose to take a prenatal, we talk a lot about quality because, like I said, they're not all the same. Prenatal vitamins are absolutely not all created equally. If you go to your local store and you grab a bunch from the shelf and look at the back of the ingredient list, you'll see that they're different. The actual nutrients that they contain, and then the quantity that they contain, and the form that they're in, and the other ingredients, they're all completely different. There's no like standard formula that has been developed for prenatal supplements. So there's really a lot of difference between them. So understanding what the differences are and which ones are, perhaps a better choice or not, is definitely an area that I think that everybody who chooses to take a prenatal should be informed about. This is why I have this great resource on my website. It's a guide to prenatal vitamins that contains the information that women need to know to make the informed decisions and the right decisions about which prenatal vitamin should they take if they even decide to take one. So like things to look for that will indicate that it's good quality, which are the nutrients that you want to have included, and which forms it should be in, what are some of the little tricky non-medicinal ingredients that you want to watch out for that maybe you don't want to be ingesting, things like that. So that's a resource that's available for free on my website, and it's open to everybody so that everybody can have that information so that they can make the right decision about their prenatals.
Absolutely. Yeah, I just shared your website with everybody and kind of popped it up there on the screen. And so I'll pop it right back up there one more time so everyone can see it. And say it for our listeners, because it's like some people are watching, but a lot of people are just listening. So if you tell them what is your website, what do they need to type to find you?
Sure. So my website is www.aubergineandolive.com. And if you go on there, there's a link on the top that says free resources. And in there, you'll find a few things, but one of them is it's called the Ultimate Guide to Prenatal Vitamins. And that has all the information you need when making a choice about a prenatal.
Excellent. And aubergine is spelled with an A, everyone. So
yes, it's the fancy French way of spelling it. The AU, yeah.
And no, I love the name of the website, because when I first saw it, I was like, oh man, this feels like it's time for hot tea. I just want to stick my pinky out and go somewhere fancy. So yeah, I'm glad we mentioned the prenatal vitamins, because what I do, I kind of scrutinize the recommendations that the medical community makes also. And I was shocked when I started digging into prenatal vitamins and the quality. I mean, I don't know if you mind us staying on this topic for a little bit, but I think it's interesting, some of the ingredients that are actually causing more problems and issues in the long run in the actual vitamin. And, being trained as a physician, we were like, they teach us, no, they have to take prenatal vitamins. Like, it's a given. You don't have a choice. If you don't, then the child will get birth defects and all these things. And there are risks. So, what you're saying, that you need a full coverage diet as far as your nutrition goes, is very important. And instead of us taking the lazy way out and just trying to pop a vitamin or any kind of pill to get us covered, doing it from the food is going to be so much more helpful, rather than just trying to take a supplement. And so, certain ingredients, like if you see folic acid in your prenatal vitamin, that's a problem. Folic acid and natural folate, which you do need and your baby needs, are necessary, but folic acid is going to be a problem. And, I think a lot of people, even health professionals, don't really recognize the difference between the molecular compounds and are recommending things that are actually causing or have the potential to cause harm. Not that it is, but, it definitely has that potential, I think. Especially with leading to thyroid issues and other issues, and we see this rapid spike in thyroid dysfunction after a pregnancy. And I'm like, could it be the prenatal vitamins that are contributing to these problems? So, I know it's, kind of out there, but I think it's a real risk. And like you said, just people need to be educated about what's in there and what they're really putting in their bodies. And I mean, the industry needs to catch up and be like, let's not recommend things that have the potential for harm for people.
Yeah, and the thing with the folic acid too is that you hear from your doctor, you got to have folic acid during pregnancy. You got to have the folic acid. And if you don't, then there's the risk of birth defects. And that, I think, is dangerous information, because first of all, it's not true. You don't need the folic acid. You need the folate, which is the natural form of the vitamin. Folic acid is a synthetic form of it. So you don't need the folic acid. You need the folate. And folic acid, taking a whole bunch of it might not prevent birth defects. For example, there's a genetic mutation that kind of a lot of people have, maybe even like up to 50% or more of the human population has. And if you have this genetic mutation, you can take all the folic acid in the world and your body's not going to be able to do anything with it. So for people like that, taking folic acid is not going to prevent the birth defects that the doctors say that it's going to. People in that situation really need to be taking not just folate, the natural form, but a particular kind of folate called methylfolate,
Yeah.
which then their bodies with this genetic mutation are actually able to use. And there's just really not a whole lot of information out there about that. And it's kind of shocking given that so many people have this genetic mutation, and folate is very important in preventing all kinds of issues, not just birth defects, but things like preeclampsia and preterm labor, and how postpartum recovery goes. So, like, understanding that just because a prenatal has something in it means it's good for you is not is important to understand that it's not always the case, and doing some digging and having the right information about, what is it that you're actually taking. Is it good for you, or is there a potential that it might actually be doing some harm? Having that kind of information is super, super important.
Absolutely. I mean, I 100% agree. And I mean, it's because I, kind of stepped away from the conventional thought process, more than a decade ago. And so it's like I completely understand what you're saying. And, like I said, the industry is time to catch up, because the information is out there. It's out there in the research. The doctors aren't really aware or seeing, what's really there, and the information that we do have access to help ourselves be a lot healthier, and like you said, in a much natural way, in a much more natural way. And you bring up a good point, and I know we're kind of staying on this topic for a little bit, but the genetic differences that people have about, you know, um, MTHFR gene mutations and those sorts of things. And most doctors just don't check. They don't have a clue. They're like, MTHF, what? Is that a cuss word? Like, no. But it's something that we need to know whether our patients have that particular mutation or not. Like you said, to know how to best help them and how to serve them. And, instead of walking around and being a little bit clueless about, well, just take this vitamin and you're going to be okay, because that may not be the truth for everyone. So,
Yeah, and this is one of the big reasons why I don't think that all women should take a prenatal, even as a backup. I think that by far the best way to get everything that you and your baby needs is from food, is from your diet, because you're getting the natural form of the nutrients in there. You're getting the right combination of nutrients together, so your body is better able to use those nutrients, and you're not getting any kind of ingredients that may not have been properly studied or might have side effects, or ingredients that we know are toxic or carcinogenic that are often added to your supplements. With food, you know what you're getting, especially if you're eating real food, which is what I call, food that's made by nature, and that's not made in a factory, like
yeah.
actual real food that is it's vitamins and nothing else, right? So there's nature's prenatal right there.
Absolutely. So, I mean, I hear that, but then it's like I also see the studies where the nutritional value of food is going down some. So it's like, now let's have a more engaging conversation. Because, you know, and that's shown in the research too. So it's, the food that we're getting and the nutrients that are in them, it's not at the same quality that it was 50 years ago or 75 years ago and things like that, because there's just so much nutrient depletion in the soil and things like that. And our lifestyles are so different now. I mean, we are under so much pressure and so many demands that our body just needs more. So, I mean, I don't know about you don't need a prenatal vitamin. I mean, I think you need a very high quality, even maybe to supplement with the food. But I think it depends on, like you said, it's dependent on the person. It's going to depend on your diet and your lifestyle and how much of the recommendations you're going to take, because that's still a contributing factor too. As you make the recommendations to people, but there's still a variability in how a person will apply it, and how much they will do and how much they can do. And I don't know. I think it's just an interesting topic.
Yeah, I think it's a good point that that we have to consider the nutrient quantity in our food that has depleted, and also consider how much people are going to follow recommendations. And so prenatal, like I said, as a backup insurance policy, if it's a high quality prenatal, maybe it is a good idea. Um, but so is things like eating organic, locally grown food,
Mm-hmm.
which is going to have a higher nutrient quantity. Like your tomato that's grown in your own backyard or from a local farmer that you're buying at your farmer's market is not only going to taste better, but is going to have a lot more nutrients than your tomato that has sat in a truck for weeks and been trucked from the other side of the country and grown in a giant food operation. So there are things like that that you can definitely do to make sure you're getting a decent amount of nutrients from your food for sure.
Yeah, that's absolutely what I was about to ask you. Like, how do you get this special nutrient dense food? Because, it's just going to the grocery store and hitting the organic section going to cut it for most people. Or do we really need to be taking those extra steps and going to the farmers markets or finding some of our local growers? Or, like you said, better than anything, growing it yourself if you have the time and space to do that.
Yeah, I think that those are all great ways to do it, but it really depends on like your time and your budget. And there's ideas for everyone across the whole spectrum. So if you have the budget to buy everything you eat organic, that's fantastic. If you don't, there's resources like the Environmental Working Group's Dirty Dozen list that gives you the 12 fruits and vegetables that have the most amounts of pesticides and chemicals on them that you should really prioritize when you're buying organic. So maybe focus just on those ones. If you have a wonderful farmers market that operates year round, fantastic. It's a great place to shop. If you're like me and you live in Canada where we're under snow for 5-6 months of the year, it's not always an option. So looking at like locals who produce in a greenhouse or buying from farmers in the summer when you can, um, and it's growing your own, even just simple things like lettuce or cucumbers that as a novice gardener myself I know are actually super easy to do and don't require a lot of effort. um, Things like that can actually make a big difference.
Nice. So, is there anything else that you wanted to leave the listeners with today that, you're just like, I'm burning to just say it, and they really need to know this about nutrition and pregnancy or just nutrition in general that maybe they don't know?
So many things, but just a few things that I guess I can touch on. So first of all, I would love for listeners to know that um, the pregnancy process, it's not just a 9-month thing. It lasts the entire pregnancy journey from like months or even years before you actually make that baby through the pregnancy. And then again, weeks, months, even years afterwards. So it's a long-term process. And it's a really important to focus on health and wellness throughout that process. And it's not just a 9 months and you're done kind of thing. So I think understanding that will go far in helping women, especially, to kind of thrive during that period and not just grow a person and then continue on with their lives and have a hard time recovering afterwards, for example.
Oh, yeah.
Um, Something else that as a holistic practitioner that I feel is important, and I talked a little bit about this before. So yes, what you eat is important, but so are a whole bunch of other factors like getting good quality sleep, managing your stress properly, moving your body on a daily basis, reducing your toxin exposure, even things like spiritual aspects and your mental health and well-being. Those are also really important too. So making sure you're like, that women are considering the whole holistic picture and not just throwing some food in and then you're fine.
Right.
Um, and the last thing that I feel really passionate about, and I talked about this in the beginning, is being informed. Um, so understanding that you don't have to do something just because somebody tells you that you do. Um, we are responsible individuals who are able to make decisions for ourselves. And those should be informed decisions. And we get informed by asking questions, understanding why, understanding the benefits and the consequences, and what all the options are. So I think being informed as much as you can, especially when it comes to things like making a baby and growing a baby, it's important not just for yourself, but for your baby. And it's an area that I love to help with. This is kind of like really my goal is this information piece. So as I mentioned, there's a lot of information on my website, in my blog post, in my free resources. I have a weekly newsletter that has a bunch of information, and I'm always posting stuff on Instagram. So there's a lot of information out there. It's just a matter of going out and finding it. So I hope that women will really do their best to be informed about, what's going on with themselves and their bodies.
Nice. That's phenomenal information, Taryn. Thank you so much for being here and for sharing so much rich information with us today. I know I've enjoyed it, and I'm sure all the listeners have also. Whether you're planning a family or whether you're not, or whether you already have one, I think this was important and impactful information, no matter where anyone is right now.
Well, thank you very much, for the opportunity to share all this information.
Absolutely. I mean, hopefully we'll get to have this conversation again sometime in the future. And if anyone wants to find you and your services, we already mentioned it, but where can they do that? And hint, if you're watching, it's on the screen, but for our listeners, where can they find you?
So you can find me on my website at www.aubergineandolive.com, or hang out on Instagram at Aubergine and Olive.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for being here today. I hope we'll get a chance to chat again soon in the future. Thanks for everyone else for tuning in today's episode of the DocMo Show with our special guest, Taryn, who's a certified holistic nutritionist and creator of Aubergine and Olive. I hope you found her insights and advice on nutrition during pregnancy, before, during, and after pregnancy helpful and inspiring. Remember, making even small changes to your diet and lifestyle can have a big, big impact on your overall health and well-being. So I absolutely encourage you to start implementing some of the tips and tricks you learned today into your daily routine, whether or not you're planning on having a baby soon. Also, don't forget to join me on the next episode. We'll be right back with more valuable insights on mastering your health naturally, so you can take your health to the next level. Thanks for listening, and until next time, this is DocMo signing off. Bye-bye.